Hey, it's Norman with iSaveTractors. Welcome to part 5 of our Simplicity 4040 Powermax project. Join me as I put the dash together, connect the engine to the transmission, and do a few other things. Let's go! Okay, let's start by picking up from where we left off on the last episode. I just need to put in a little Welch plug here to cover this hole up, and then we'll get right to the dashboard and the rest of the stuff for this tractor. Here I am just removing all of the electrical switches and wires and components and meters off the dashboard so I can get it ready for paint and new decals. The little plastic tab was pretty stuck onto this throttle cable, so I had to give it some tiny taps with a metal hammer to pop it off. I was really careful to not break the knob so I can reuse it later. The throttle cable was a little stiff, so I sprayed some WD-40 down the conduit, let it sit for a while so it would loosen up, and then after it sat, I just pulled the wire back and forth to help lubricate it further. Now I can reuse this throttle wire and this handle setup. The part of the wire where it connects to the throttle handle had broken off, so here I am just using some thin needle nose pliers to give the end of the wire a little Z-bend so I can thread it back into the hole on the throttle handle. Here I am using my trusty angle grinder with a polycarbide disc to quickly strip the metal and the old decals off of these dash panels here. I painted these panels off camera, and I'll show you what they look like towards the end of this video. Now here I am working on the coupler for the PTO. This is the part that connects the PTO shaft to the engine. It's a chain coupler setup, and I'm told by simplicity enthusiasts that live on the Facebook group that this setup was original to the earliest of the Simplicity 4040s. It is pretty easy to repair, so I'm thankful for that. If you listen carefully, I sound like Darth Vader from Star Wars. It is because I am wearing a respirator right now because I was painting the dash panels that you saw earlier off camera. So after I threw on the coats of paint while I was waiting between the dry times, I just decided to work on this PTO. You'll see it. I'll come into frame with my respirator on in a moment. The keyway was a little funky on this part of the chain coupler, so I just had to use a file to kind of square up the corners so I could get a new key to fit in there. I, by mistake, stripped out the little set screw that was used to hold the chain coupler hub to the key on the PTO shaft. So here I am drilling out the old set screw, and then I'm going to retap it and put in a new set screw. Now, before I put the PTO couplers on, I have to put the drive belts that drive the transmission. In order to do this, I have to pick up the engine, put the two belts into the lower pulley, lower the engine, tilt the engine forward, finish getting the belts on, tighten up that tension spring, install the engine, and then I'm ready to put the PTO coupler on. This last engine bolt is really difficult to get. In order to hold the bolt on top so you can tighten out this bottom part, you have to snake a wrench through the frame and then under the starter and get it into this really tiny space. I wasn't able to get it on this shot, but I did get it off camera. Okay, so it turns out in order to get the coupler onto the engine side, I actually have to take the PTO shaft, not completely out, but I have to disassemble it so I can tilt it down and out of the way so I can get the chain coupler onto the engine side. And there it is. After all that work, the chain coupler's together, and now the engine is connected to the PTO shaft. Success. Here I am putting the dash tower back onto this tractor. This is one of the pieces I was painting off camera earlier in this video. I decided to paint it a brilliant white rather than the kind of cream-colored original color that Simplicity used. I just really like the contrast. Here I am about to fix the hydrostatic control lever. Here I am putting a ball inside this little hole that's on the lever. What this ball does is it acts as a brake. So you can push the hydrostatic lever forward to go forward, but you can't pull it back. Nothing can cause the tractor to slow down unless you pull this little lever, and then you can turn the lever down. It'll be clear in a moment. This is what I was talking about earlier. This is how the lever works. See how it can't go back unless I push that little forward lever. See how it's stuck there? It only comes back if you depress both levers at the same time. This ball was originally missing when I first got the tractor, and now it's fixed. Hey, I hope you enjoyed part 5 of our Simplicity 4040 Powermax project. Don't forget, iSaveTractors, we are the leading developers of aftermarket parts for your old, vintage, and antique small engines that power your small garden tractors and other equipment. We make parts for engines like the old cast iron Kohler K Series, KT Twin Series, Magnum Series. We make parts for the old cast iron Briggs and Stratton, Tecumeh, Wisconsin, and for 2019, Onan Engines. My name is Norman. Thanks for watching.